Hello. Welcome back to Beyond Measure, a show that I have started on this platform called Fireside. This is the second episode, and I am broadcasting this simultaneously to YouTube. If you are watching over there, the full experience happens over at Fireside, which is a relatively new social audio and video app that I've really been enjoying. This is technically the sixth show that I've started. And I'm laughing because people think it's crazy of me to have so many projects going on. But I'm really passionate about talking about subject matters that matter to me. And I'm using Fireside to make it interactive. There are a ton of amazing people on this platform. If you didn't see the previous episode or listen to it, because there's an audio only version of this too, if you didn't know, a wonderful guest showed up. His name is EJ, and I had never met him before. He was just another member of Fireside that was interested in the subject matter. So what I learned from that first episode, and I'm going to experiment with today, is to share some of my thoughts to gain some momentum, to have some content at the beginning of this, and then see if anyone else shows up to have the discussion with me. And if they don't, then I will what your thoughts are. Actually, regardless, I would love to hear from you in an email or a message on social media. I have comments turned off on YouTube because honestly, I haven't had the greatest experience with YouTube comments. And now that I've gotten into a different flow with now two different series, one is called Web3 with Whitney, and this one Beyond Measure, I feel like I'm starting to gain my confidence back on YouTube. When I was doing mostly YouTube style content, not this podcast style content, I felt like people tend to be very negative in my experience with the type of content that I was creating. And I just don't want to take in that negativity. So I put up a boundary and haven't missed it. The only downside to not having comments on is that I miss out on some people that prefer to leave comments. So right now, the best way to get in touch with me is via email or social media under @WhitLauritsen. That's WhitLauritsen. And to find my email address, you can go over to the YouTube profile, you can go over to Fireside, or you can go directly to my website, whitneylauritsen.com. Today's subject matter is about age. Before I get into that, I want to give a quick overview about what this title Beyond Measure is. That is a term and a title that I've been using for the last few years because of my interest in seeing people beyond the external. I think we tend to measure ourselves and measure others based on factors like age, which is the subject matter of today. And a lot of us start to feel self-conscious. We can get into a place of a lot of judgment. We can limit our perspectives of ourselves and others based on these external measurements. And my goal with Beyond Measure, this show, as well as Beyond Measure, my private community that I run, is to see people as innately worthy and valuable and beyond any of those external measurements. Since I mentioned the private community, that's something I started about 2 years ago in 2020 to bring together people to have live conversations, to support each other, to have a safe place to discuss all elements of their life outside of social media, which I feel like is kind of the main way that we tend to find people to socialize with outside of our existing friend groups. We go to social media to express ourselves. We go to social media to connect with others, to learn from them, to be entertained by them. But as I described with YouTube comments, there can be a level of toxicity, for lack of a better term in this moment. There can be a level, of course, of comparison, of misunderstanding too. I think that happens a lot and something that I've experienced so much on even podcasting. This happens as well. Recently, I had an experience where I said some things on my main podcast. This might get uncomfortable, that probably came across in a way that I didn't intend them to. And I've experienced that on a lot of social media and YouTube. And there's part of me that wants to protect myself from that. There's part of me that wants to shield myself from misunderstandings and judgments and conflict. And there's another side of me that really wants to embrace it. So maybe Beyond Measure will help me get outside of my comfort zone. But first, I have to become more confident in myself. I have to develop, or I would like to, I don't have to, I would like to develop more security and feel more grounded in who I am. And I've struggled a lot with that through social media. And let's shift over to where age comes in with this. My question today is, does age matter? And my gut instinct is that I don't believe it matters. I'm fascinated by age. The older I get, the more age seems to have some significance for me. But I've also noticed how much it's played a role my entire life. I recently did, or actually an upcoming episode of my podcast, This Might Get Uncomfortable, centers around that. My birthday is on March 21st. Today I'm recording on March 19th. So it's just 2 days away. And I don't really get concerned around my birthday. I think some people dread it. They don't want to get older. There's so much fear about turning another number. I don't have that to my at top of mind, at least. I'm not sitting here going, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm about to turn this number. But I also find myself not wanting to share my number because I don't like being judged for my age. I don't like being put in context for my age. Now, I share a lot about those feelings in that upcoming podcast episode if you want to hear me go in more in depth. So I'm trying to think of new ways to explore this, and I hope that some people over on Fireside will tune in. What I've noticed on most social audio platforms like this one, like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, it takes some time to gain some momentum. So we'll see what happens if anyone ends up tuning in. And so for now, I'm just really focused on talking to those of you that are listening to the recording of this. And I'm trying to kind of look beyond myself with this question of whether age matters. I think that it comes up a lot in relationships. In fact, if you type in the phrase, does age matter on Google, for example, and hi, Lily, thanks for joining in. When I looked up that question today, it was all about relationships, and I found that really interesting. Why is that question so frequently put into context when it comes to our romantic lives? And I'm curious for you, when you think about age, is that something romantic? Because when I think about age, I think about the judgments that we place on people in terms of their value. And Lily, at any point, if you would like to jump in, you can request to come up. I would love to hear from you on this. And by the way, one thing I've realized with Fireside in particular is it's really important for me to acknowledge every person that comes to listen live, because I have gone to so many live experiences on platforms like Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces. That's where I've been spending a lot of time recently. And I find myself wanting to feel acknowledged, wanting to feel like people see me. And it's interesting to me how, as social audio has become more popular, more commonplace, it seems like there's less and less calls for participation. So it's going to be my intention every time I go live here in Fireside to welcome anybody to come up to the stage to be part of this conversation if they would like to. Some people just want to be there to listen, and that's completely fine too. But this idea, and hi Bart, who just joined in. Again, I'm curious, what does age mean for you, and how has that shown up in your life? I just got off of a podcast recording with somebody who brought up her age, and that's fine. I think a lot of us are used to sharing our age to give context to ourselves. But I find myself more and more wondering why we do that. Why does it matter? Because when I meet somebody, the only reason I'm thinking about their age is, I believe, because I've been conditioned to. And these days, it's very hard to tell how old someone is, especially through photos and videos, right? We have filters, we have makeup, clothing, right? And Lily's using the laugh feature here in Fireside, which I love. It's so cool. You can use these different emojis and sound effects. So if for those of you listening to this, you might hear some of those as I'm talking. Um, but I'm just interested in how we have this kind of obsession with something where a lot of us can fake it. A lot of us can pretend that we're older or younger than we are. And then I start to wonder, why do we do that? Why do we feel, and let me make it about me, unless Lily or Bart want to come up, which again, you're welcome to. I wonder why I don't like sharing my age. It's not, to my belief, my current awareness, out of being self-conscious about my age. It is that I don't want people to put me in that context. I don't want them to go, oh, she's this age, so that must mean this. She's this age, so that must mean that she's not that, right? Like putting people in boxes based around their age. And hello, Woody, who also just joined. I remember you from the previous recording that I did, so thank you for coming back. I think also we make judgments based on how people look. I hear it in different contexts, like, wow, that person really aged. I was just watching a movie last night, and the person I was watching it with remarked this on how one of the actors looks a lot older than they remember them looking. And I thought to myself, that's just so interesting, because what if that actor is wearing makeup to make themselves look older and it's just part of the movie? It's not really about the actor, it's about the character. But we see this so much, especially with public figures. We tend to collectively have these judgments about how they look. And so much of that is age based. Have you ever found yourself looking up somebody's age as you're watching a movie, TV show, or something else online? This curiosity that many of us have developed. And whenever I find myself wondering how old someone is, I kind of pause and think, why does it matter? Why do I need to know? So again, I'm asking you, the listener, but also anybody here on Fireside that might want to come up, curious, why does it matter to you? If it does, how old somebody is, what are you really wondering about them? What is the deeper meaning behind that question? And also, how do you feel when somebody asks you your age? How do you feel when somebody tells you their age? In real time, I'm reflecting on this, right? I'm sitting here thinking, like, okay, like, let's say I tend to do this a lot with women. So Lily, who I assume is a woman, correct me if I'm wrong, but based on your name, I'm making that assumption. She's clapping. So I'm also trying to be very mindful about gender these days too, which is a whole nother subject I'll probably get in another episode. But I find myself more interested in wondering how old other women are and less interested in how old men are. Like, to me, it's like, does not have the same weight in terms of my interest. So let's say I was curious about how old Lily was. If I step back and think, why does it matter? Am I curious because I'm wondering if she's my age, right? But if I haven't told Lily what my age and she hasn't told me what her age is, it kind of loses the context, right? And so if I find myself wanting to know how old she is, I have to kind of, or I'm choosing to dig deeper into that curiosity. Is it that I'm wondering if she's smarter than me? Am I wondering if she's more experienced than me? Am I wondering if she's less experienced? Is she at a different stage in her life? Like, what basically comes down to what value she might offer me, and also what value I might offer her. There's like a question there, because it's like, if deep down each of us wants to be innately valuable and make it not about these external measurements, then I think part of this is examining our curiosities towards other people and our insecurities about ourselves. I think age especially feels like a trigger for a lot of us, myself included. It's that we don't have a lot of control of it. This is something I brought up on my main podcast, This Might Get Uncomfortable, in an upcoming episode. It comes out on Monday, the 21st, on my birthday. And it's that ageism is actually a universal thing that all of us experience. It's, I think, from what I read, the one ism, and hi, Randy, thanks for joining. Hi, Chris. Again, this is completely open. Any of you can come up on stage with me at any point to weigh in on if you think age matters, why or why not. That's the big question here. With ageism, oh, Chris is going to come up. I'm going to pause in real time. Hey, Chris, thanks for being here. I see from your photo that you might be a fellow podcaster. And if you want to come up on video too, you can turn your video on. And let me see. I think I have to request that of you. It's one thing about Fireside. It takes a lot of taps to get people up here. But I'll finish my statement about ageism being a universal thing. Racism, people experience differently based on their race or their skin color, right? Sexism is different based on your gender, your sex. There's a lot of these isms that are very specific to who you are, whereas ageism, I guess, might feel specific to your age, but we will judge people based on their age and, throughout their whole lives. So it's kind of like this weight that we maybe carry through with us throughout our whole life, wondering, do we matter? Are we valuable? What do people think of us? And Chris, welcome. I am very curious to hear your thoughts on this. He's waving.
Well, thank you so much. I'm just here for a moment. And I saw your topic and I had to jump on because I'm a 65-year-old community college sophomore. And the reason for the screen is I'm in the middle of my Pro Tools editing homework. So I wanted to come on and say unequivocally, if that's the right word, no, age does not matter. I'm like an old moldy cheese. I'm getting better and better.
But here, let me challenge. I love that, first of all. I love your thumbs up. I love the visual. Thank you. But I'm curious, do you feel like even the word old, right? Like, what does old mean? That's something that I've been reflecting on. Like, when we use the word old, or you're using it in the context of yourself as a moldy cheese, is it about being older than other people? It's still putting us in comparison. Like, maybe you're saying you're older than the average student around your age.
Yes, that's all I'm referring to. That's all I'm referring to. Because in my opinion, age is a mental state. It's a concept. It's a presumption. In other words, Satchel Paige, the famous baseball player from the Negro Leagues back in the day, once said, "How old would you be if you didn't know how old you were?" And my wife just reminded me that her father says that too, and he's 90. He'll be 90 next year. So yeah, it's just a matter of the way you think about things. I honestly, if I stop and think about my age, I think I'm around 10 or 12.
Yeah, and Randy and Lily in the audience are laughing over that. I think a lot of people can relate to that. And that's part of why I feel like age doesn't matter, because it is about how you feel. But yet, do you find, Chris, that do you get nervous around people judging you for your age? Like, in the context of school right now, like, do people say things to you that feel judgmental, or maybe feel like they're trying to limit what you can and can't do because of your age?
No, not in the least. As a matter of fact, the school I attend here in San Francisco, it's a community college, so I'm like the Chevy Chase of real life community. Anyway, no, I feel like I fit right in, and we all get along. And as a matter of fact, I was just at Whole Foods picking up a couple of items, and I was listening to the cashier talk to the checkout baggers and whatnot, because it's a slow day at Whole Foods. And I'm on a mobility scooter, so that even shows, if you will, a natural aging process. So they're talking. Oh, I'm going to go out to see a movie with Jason. Jason, who's Jason? Oh, Jason, he works there. What? I don't remember. Anyway, they're going on and on. And I'm just listening and I'm checking out. And I know who Jason is. He works at the front end desk, you know. So when I got all done transacting my transaction, I said, "Don't you know Jason? He works at the front end. He's here all the time." And they looked at me like stunned. How does an old man on a scooter know anything? So that's their perception, not mine.
Right. I like that. That's great. First of all, you painted a wonderful picture about who you are. You have a great voice, and the personality is just radiating here. I know you might not have a lot of time, so thank you for jumping in. I'm curious, what brought you to not just this, but Fireside? It sounds like you do a lot of work in the audio world. Is that right?
That's correct. I'm a public speaker. I'm a minister. I'm a pastor. I also work with voiceovers. I do voiceover work and do a little comedy on the side that my wife does not find funny. And I'm on social media, which my wife does not follow me on. Anyway, I do, however, yeah, she gets enough of me right here in the recliner next to me. But I will text her when she's next to me on the recliner. I'll text her. That's pretty funny. Anyway, yeah, so I do all those things. And what brought me to Fireside was I was looking for an app that would allow us to use video. And I was looking for an app that would explore the possibility of reaction because during the pandemic, we found public speakers or anybody, we found that we missed that reaction. We missed the laughter. We missed the applause. In fact, right now, everybody in the audience, just start applauding. It's not my show, but just applaud for no reason. You see, look at that. Isn't that fabulous? I love it. I love it. So that brought me to Fireside, and I've been here since August, and I've been broadcasting a show since November. We just celebrated yesterday our 100th episode of our show, The Antidepressant of the Day. I'm not here to plug myself. I'm here to plug you, Whitney. Give Whitney a big hand as I go back to my homework. Thank you for the time, Whitney. Bye-bye.
Wow, Chris, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I can't wait to check that out. I'm brand new to Fireside, so the participation is what brings me in here. And thank you for coming up. And the offer is extended. Randy, Garnet, Lily, Woody, Bart, you're all in the audience right now. If you want to come on up to even the word audience, I feel like is, I would say, I like to visualize it more like we're all in a circle together and you're being encouraged to share. If you would like I'm the proctor or some whatever that term is. So Randy is going to come up. Awesome. And Randy, you can accept the invite to video if you'd like, because I'm simulcasting this to YouTube and also a podcast I started based on this. So Randy, thanks for coming up.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are
Good.
you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, it's funny that I just got off a Zoom call with another group that we get paired up sometimes, and I got paired up with a 29-year-old girl, and I'm 46, but it's all about spirituality and stuff like that. I think it's a lot of times you connect with the people that you're on the same frequency with. It doesn't matter the number, so you connect with, and we pretty much connected like right off the bat. So it's like I felt like we were even. That's why they just random pick, and that's how we just ended up together because we were vibrating on the same scale.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
I couldn't agree more. And I love that idea of vibrations and energy, right?
yeah.
And it's so interesting too, because I'm curious how, let's say that's a positive experience of age in the context. Have you felt negative experiences around ageism? Have you yourself experienced ageism or found yourself judging others based on their age? And what have you kind of learned from that?
I don't think I try not to judge anyone. I try to catch myself if I do catch myself with the judging thing. Now, probably 20 years ago, yeah, I probably would judge people on age and before I grew. And I think if I would have stayed at that same age of 20 and not grown, then what would be the purpose of life? If you don't grow throughout your time here. And I believe that, you know, I believe we have millions of lifetimes. I think the body is just here and our souls are, you hear that phrase, you have an old soul. So I think we just remember the things that we've forgotten. And so, yeah, I don't think age really matters at all.
Very profound.
It's just a word, words are meaningless until you put a meaning to it,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for that. I think this is
Laughter is very, very good. They say laughter is the voice of God. So, yeah, laughter is very good.
Yeah. And what do you do here on Fireside? What brought you here, and what's your experience been
I'm
like?
friends with a guy, a podcast, I guess Craig Shoemaker. He invited me to attend one of his shows, and I met him through another network that I'm part of. And I just I enjoy it so much. And I have a little small business back on the beach, but I'm thinking about doing a show myself.
Cool. What would your show be about?
I think more of spirituality, growth and things like that.
And when you say on the beach, which beach?
Panama City Beach, Florida.
Oh, cool. Nice. Getting claps from Chris and the audience. They're cheering you on.
Yeah.
I think it would be a great thing. I mean, when we have a passion, having an outlet for it, as Chris was saying, like having a platform like this where we can talk. And I just think it's the greatest thing to be able to talk to other people just randomly like this. So,
oh, it's amazing how you can reach out and connect to other people that you resonate with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope you start your show. I would definitely tune in.
All right, thanks. Make it a great day.
Thank you, Randy. Thanks for coming up.
Bye-bye.
And hi, Stephanie and Juliet. Thanks for joining and having an open conversation with anyone who wants to come up to talk about whether or not they think age matters and how age has shown up in your life. I feel like I'm running like a call-in show, like a radio call-in show. I've never done anything quite like this. I've done a lot on Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces, but this just feels different and really cool. So thank you for those that are listening, watching, participating. I simulcast this to my YouTube channel and decided to turn this into a podcast. So also trying to keep in mind anyone who's listening to the recordings of this. So if anyone else wants to come up and share to talk about, how ageism has or has not shown up for you, but also if you have questions to add to this conversation. One that I was thinking of as Randy was talking was, let me see, I lost it in this moment because it was not just like how we might have experienced ageism, but this idea around evolving and growing as human beings. I think see so many plus sides to growing older. And I think for some reason our society emphasizes youth so much. And I'm curious how many of you have experienced that. And also, Randy's point about shifting our perspectives over time. And also being mindful to not make assumptions about people who are in different generations. This comes up a lot. I don't know how many of you spend time on TikTok, but that's one of my favorite platforms. And I'm fascinated how, and I see a lot of TikTok fans over here, right? So especially Garnet and Stephanie, if you want to come up and share any TikTok experiences, one thing there's two big things. A lot of people say, oh, isn't that the dancing app? Right? There's so many misconceptions. And secondly, it feels youthful. And a lot of people think that they're too old to be on TikTok or that they're doing things differently than the younger people are. And there's a lot of these things that I see throughout social media, which is very big in my life. I do social media advising, and almost every single client of mine says something like that into context of their age. Well, am I too old for this? Am I too young? Oh, that's too old for me. That platform's for older people. That platform's for younger people, right? So we start to even put the context of the work and our experiences into our age. So I think we do end up thinking about age in such subtle ways, or other people around us might try to limit our experiences and what we mean to them based on what they think about age. So it's almost impossible, I think, to get away from this age conversation. I'm also curious if any of you, if for those that are looking for something to bring to the table here, or maybe just reflect on beyond this conversation, is do you find that have you ever been in a place where you weren't thinking about age truly? I would love to get to that place. I think if for my own evolution, I would like to never be asked about my age. I don't even need to know other people's ages. I find that a lot of people tend to lead with that. It reminds me of the question about what do you do, which is something else I'm trying not to ask. because I think our identity is so far beyond those things. It's beyond our gender and where we live and what we do and our age. But if you think about it, that's often what we lead with in conversations with new people. And what I like to know is, well, what are you passionate about? What is your life's work? What is your vision? I just had this wonderful podcast guest for my show, This Might Get Uncomfortable, and all of her work is based on having a vision for life. And she shared this quote with me that I'd never heard to my recollection, which was that you write your vision with a pen, but you write your path with a pencil, because you can always change your path. You can erase it, you can adjust it. And Stephanie's going to come up, so I'm going to pause there to hear what she has to say. Hey, Stephanie, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Whitney, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Super interesting conversation. I think when you talk about ageism, or any other ism, I think, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I think what's so interesting is that from a societal standpoint, at least in the United States, other countries look at us and they're really perplexed about how we treat older people. In other societies, as your parents age, as grandparents age, you tend to live together, or you look for a home that has like a casita, or you ensure that the family is together and cared for. And in a TikTok world, in a world of YouTube and other platforms, where we see many creators tend to gear more young in terms of the ones that you really see, right? And I don't have any data to support what I just said, but I feel like it's possible that we have more younger creators than older creators. Define older and younger however you will. But if we go on the premise that we don't necessarily value age, wisdom, life experience, that I'm sure that that's going to proliferate across every vertical that we talk about, right? Whether that's in the workplace, whether that's in society, whether business, play, recreating. And I think I'm happy you're having this conversation, because I certainly hope that we see a shift. I think that, what I would tell my younger self is to seek out people who are your friends' parents and their parents. What did you learn in this lifetime so far? What have you learned? What mistakes did you make that were some of your greatest gifts? And what mistakes did you make where you're like, if you can avoid this, let me tell you. But I think there's so much to learn. Yes, for people certainly with higher educations, and then even beyond that, those are great learnings as well. But life experience, good old fashioned, just getting through the world life experience is so interesting. And I think we have so much mentoring we could do. And I think we miss a lot of those opportunities when we don't value people with maybe more life experience. So that was kind of what I was thinking about as you were sharing. And Randy, I just have to say, I really loved what you said, and it resonated with me. I think I'm always shifting through my spiritual walk. And I love what you said about, I think when we know things, I'm not going to get it right. You said it really beautifully, and I'm going to completely kill it. I won't totally kill it, but I'm going to kill little, which is we're only just remembering what we already knew. And I was like, boom. I felt like that was really, that could lead, we could do a whole podcast on just that. But anyway, you've been very generous with your time. I wanted to share with you, that's sort of what was coming up for me as you were talking about this issue of ageism and how do societal norms and societal tendencies impact, and then have us lose opportunities, I think, to have some of our older generations help the younger ones come along. So yeah, very interesting.
Absolutely. And something that comes up for me as you're sharing that is, what if instead of wondering or asking how old someone is, or even sharing our age, it's what do we have to teach others? And Stephanie, right. I wanted to acknowledge you, because once I saw you on camera, I remembered that I went to your demo of Fireside, and that was my introduction. I was so impressed with your confidence, your composure, your teaching abilities, and people. I mean, it's a great example of, I haven't met you in person, but we're having this conversation here unfolding, and I've learned so much from you. So it's nothing to do with your age, right? I'm not coming on here wondering like how old you are. I'm coming on here to learn from you and feel inspired by people like you that have that experience, right? Because all of us that are new at something have so much to learn from someone, and that could be, it's completely regardless of age, right? It could be someone older or younger than us or the same age. And I think that that's something I've really struggled with in my work is this question of how old you are almost feels like they're asking where your value is. Like, oh, do you have value? But if it's not really tied to our age, our value.
Yeah. And I think I'm also noticing that in a culture and a society, I think it's really normal to come up with labels. And here's what I mean by that. I feel like labeling is kind of sometimes how we sort through information, right? Like that is a young Black woman. That is an older white man. That is a middle-aged Asian Pacific Islander. I mean, I think that we do that by nature. And I don't think labels always have to be negative either. They're identifiers. I mean, like, let's think about police officers or emergency responders that actually have to give a definition of who they have right now. You know, Hispanic male or between the ages of 20 and 30, right? They're definers that have to do with potential health risks. They have to do with, I mean, there's all sorts of things, right? But I think for women, in many cases, the age thing becomes a lot bigger of a deal. And that's why I try to say my age everywhere I am, because I have realized that I have people go, oh, and they get shocked that I'll even say it.
Really?
Because women, certainly women in media, right? I mean, I was an MSNBC commentator for a while. I've certainly been interviewed around my media market in California. And there is an age where women are like, oh, do we have anybody younger? because it's visual, right? Podcasting is interesting because if you didn't have the ability to be visual along with that, you might not necessarily know. But I do know as a woman, this is the most magnificent time in my life. I think it's taken this long to sort of get comfortable in my skin, regardless of what that looks like anymore. And certainly we probably have our own individual vanity issues. That's just, I think, part of the human existence. Or maybe I'm just not evolved enough yet. But the point is, I want to inspire women and men to say, like, it's okay. And if I say I'm 54, which when I say that, I'm like, am I real? Yeah, you are actually. But when I say that, what comes with that is some fantastic life experience. Hard, good, joyful, painful. And it's just made me such a richer person and someone who I know really has great value in serving other people or coming alongside other people and saying, hey, I learned something about this. If you're curious, I'd be happy to offer you some insight. And it doesn't mean it's going to be true for you, but it means here's been my experience, if that can be helpful. So I do try to own all of that and let it not be a shameful thing. I mean, sometimes I look in the mirror and I go, wow, is that me? And then you kind of go, okay. I mean, I feel pretty inside. And what I mean by pretty is I really feel like the person that I am and the intention I have for other people is really pretty. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like my intentions are really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so there is something about beauty emulating from the inside out. Because I've met beautiful women who, once they started talking to me, they really weren't very pretty anymore. But do you know what I'm saying? Have you seen that where it's like, dang, you have nice lashes, but wow, you're a horrible person.
Yes, exactly.
I'm being a little tongue in cheek, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that thinking about how we define beauty, and I have met some stunningly beautiful women who have never had a drop of makeup on, in sweats, and they're healthy and they're happy, and they're some of the most beautiful people I've ever seen. And so I don't know, beauty is indeed in the eye of the beholder, but I think age, race, color, creed, sex, religion, no religion, all of this, I think when we find people that look different, act different, think different than we do, we can get better. We can learn, right?
100%.
So I think we're in a place right now. I'm hoping in this world we start to do more. I want to learn from you. I don't want to hate you. I don't want to see where we're different. I just want to learn from you. What is your life like? What does it look like through your lenses? How has your childhood impacted where you're at? I mean, let's start getting more curious and less judgmental. That's such a Ted Lasso thing. I forgot about that. Ted Lasso said, be curious, not judgmental.
Did he really? That's so cool.
Yeah. Ted Lasso will save the world. I mean, that is my opinion. But anyway,
gosh,
I think it's fantastic what you're touching on. I think it touches on so many other things, and I hope to see you just go for it with all of this content. I think there's so much value that can be had by having these discussions. I think they're great. Thank you for having me.
That means a lot coming from you. And for context for anyone who doesn't know you, Stephanie, and actually I'm not even sure about this because I joined Fireside and then they said you should go to one of these demos to learn more about it. So I signed up and that's how I found yours. So do you work for Fireside or
That's a
are you
fair
just
question.
like,
I'm helping.
yeah.
I am helping Fireside. I was actually a creator here. We have many people in the audience actually here who have been on Fireside, part of the OG creators, I guess. Certainly Juliet and Lily and some other folks. Onboarded late February or early March of 2021.
Wow.
And have just kind of been along for the ride, to be honest with you. And I really, really love it. It's been fun to watch Fireside, kind of like the mission of Fireside and kind of the goal. And I think the goal is always going to be moving, but the ultimate goal is a really heavily creator supported platform where you have the ability to sort of climb onto a jet plane and sort of do whatever you want, stream wherever you want, right? And that's really what they're building. And I think it's wonderful. And the founder, Mark Cuban is certainly co-founder, but Fallon Fatemi, who is building this platform, has the most fascinating background. And she serves on some boards that surround ethics and technology and some other things that I think she's a magnificently smart person. That comes from a really good, hardcore, ethical drive in life in terms of where she's going, and I'm down for that class. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I'm big on that. We've seen the benefits and the blessings of technology and social media platforms, and we've seen the harm. And depending on what route you go, it can be really, really harmful too. And so I love what she's doing here. I love what she's building. I love that Fireside is full of incredibly rich, interesting content. With content creators that really do some amazing things here. And so where this is going to me is really taking advantage and harnessing the power of social media, social audio, podcasting, and all of that, and wrapping it into these incredible opportunities to have shows that are interactive and you can see each other. You can also hear from each other, have your audience join you live, come on camera. It's more personal. I think it's a great place to be. And I think that the possibilities here continue to grow. And I think you're right here at the right time. And from what I know about you now, I think you're in exactly the right place.
Oh, thank you.
High quality content, great conversations, audience participation, having people think about it. I think that's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate, and thank you for describing Fireside because as I mentioned, I'm simulcasting this to YouTube and also taking the audio and putting it onto an audio podcast. And
awesome.
I've been trying to describe Fireside better. So no one better than you to come on here and share it and everybody in the audience.
I think for people who've been on other platforms, Clubhouse talks about rooms and Twitter talks about spaces and Fireside talks about shows. And that's why you see that the ability to use Waitbot, right? Which is sort of, if you imagine this virtual audience, if you buy tickets to go see a panel conversation, like maybe it's a TED Talk, right? And you walk into the auditorium, the lights are on, there's music playing in the background, you give them your ticket, you walk in, you sit down, you get settled. And when it's time for the show to start, the music stops. Everybody applauds, the lights go down and the spotlights come on and off you go to your show. And so creating that sort of idea in mind that if people bought a ticket to come to your show, they really want it, they're getting something for that, right? And so it's allowing creators to really bring it into that idea of I'm on a stage and I'm here to provide not only great content, but a great experience for the audience as well. And for the audience to be able to audibly react and respond. It's nice to get that indication, right? If you're creating content, people are going, it's like, okay. But the claps and the laughter and sort of the fire emojis also offer some feedback live that can tell you if you're kind of knocking it out of the park, or if people are like, sister, you want to maybe turn right now or something.
Yeah, it's so unique.
It's, you know what I mean? It is. And there's so much more coming. I mean, 2022 is just going to be a remarkable year for Fireside. It was remarkable last year in terms of everything that's happened, but it's going to get more remarkable now. And Lily down there has done a ton of shows on Fireside. Juliet has done a ton of stuff. Juliet just broadcasted live, did this amazing thing where she was at her podcast is YNS Live, Your Next Stop. And she had some women from the NFL. She was at this fashion show and she had this tech team that was like following her around and interviewing people. Just incredible. Then, as you know, what's really fun is you can click on the profile of all these creators and find out what shows they've already hosted. You can go in and listen to replays and actually see replays for people who have actually done some, amazing video work and other things. So the sky is really the limit. And it's fun because people get to kind of iterate, like, what do you want to do with this? Here's the tools.
Yes.
Here's your toolbox. Go for it. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Oh, and then just since you're new, in case you didn't know this, you can actually turn.
Oh, you know what? I forgot about that. I know I could do that because
And then what's interesting, if you know, is you can
on
tap on the picture and then it actually puts you full screen.
Yes.
Right.
I know.
And
so I have to reconfigure this next time.
I know.
Wow,
let's
cool.
How to get vertigo.
Wow. Thank you, Stephanie.
Anyway,
it's like
I
another
didn't mean to
lesson.
take over your show. I just wanted to say hello.
This is great. This is great because I imagine people in the audience are thinking like, what is Fireside? And, I want to make sure everybody feels like they're on the same page and welcome to come. And I hope that people come and participate. That's my big aim, and being able to just connect with people. That's what's drawn me to Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces.
Sure, of course.
But you're absolutely right that the options here with Fireside are so exciting, and I'm so grateful. So thank you to you and Lily and Garnet, Randy, Juliet, Woody, Bart, everyone that's been here, that's spoken, that's clapped. I appreciate you. I'm going to wrap things up because I didn't charge my phone enough. This is one thing I need to work on because I use my mic, and because of my iPhone, I can only plug in one thing at a time.
By the way, hot tip, the newer iPhones have got a battery life that is off the charts, which I just got my new iPhone because I finally had to upgrade, and I can't believe how long I can be on this platform and not have any battery issues.
It's so exciting.
It's a great thing. I know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm very, very much looking forward to upgrading my iPhone at some point just for that.
Well, Whitney, it's been a pleasure to have a conversation with you, and I love what you were covering today. I can't wait to see more content from you, and really so happy you're here on Fireside. So thanks for having me.
I appreciate that. Yes, and for you and everyone else, my series, my show that I want to have here, I'm treating it just like I would any other podcast that I work on. And
awesome.
It's always going to be called Beyond Measure, but my aim is that every topic, actually a lot of the things that you shared, Stephanie, I'm going to go back through the transcript and see, because you brought up so many great things about appearance and ways that we judge people. And the idea is always to come down to innate worthiness and value and seeing what we can learn from people, which I'm so glad that you said that. So thank you for adding to the conversation in all the ways that you have.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Whitney.
Yeah.
Sounds wonderful. Thanks for having me. I'll put myself back down in the audience. Great show today. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. And thank you again to everyone else. Thanks again, Randy, for sticking around and I'm following you. So I can't wait to see what the rest of people in the audience are up to. I'm going to click the follow button for everyone here. So I would hope to have you back for an upcoming show. I'm working on a schedule, but Stephanie has really inspired me to just come back to this app and spend more time listening and watching others. So I encourage you, if you're watching outside of Fireside or for listening to the podcast, check out the app. This is not meant to be an ad for Fireside, but it's just meant to showcase the amazing new tool that's developed. I had no idea it's been around for so long. So I am a newbie. I'm going to share my whole newbie journey on Fireside each time I record. And I hope to see you back here again next time. If you want to know what's coming up, if you want to come participate, I will work on a schedule and I'll add it in on the Fireside app. And I'll also make sure to keep you posted on other social media platforms. Bye for now, and wishing you all the very best with your day and reminding you to reflect on age and whether or not it matters to you. If you haven't realized it already, there are so many things to consider beyond your age and other people's age. And I would love your feedback if you want to send me a message via email or social media. However you want to reach me, I am Whitney Lauritsen. That's my website, and my social media is at Whit Lauritsen, WHITLAURITSEN. Very active on Twitter these days, but you can message me on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you'd like to find me. LinkedIn is great as well. So I'd love to connect with you. I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And